could have $1 million in your IRA, but unless you can accurately predict what tax rates are going to be in the year you take that money out, you don't really know how much money you have. And that's a pretty tough position to be in when you're trying to plan for retirement. I started in the industry back in 1997. And when I started, in the very year that Bill Clinton, in the very year that I started in this industry, Bill Clinton stood before Congress in the State of the Union, and he says, I've got great news. The national deficit, which is not the national debt, it's just what they're spending relative to what the federal budget is relative to how much tax was coming in that year. He says, I got great news. The federal deficit is simply zero. And he says, we've got budget surpluses as far as the eye can see. In fact, it's true. He did have budget surpluses as far as the eye could see. In fact, in 1997, the budget surpluses went all the way out to 2023. So things were pretty rosy. The national debt was only $5 trillion, and it's okay for countries to have some national debt. It's all about debt to GDP, and the debt to GDP was totally reasonable back then. But boy, it's been a wild 25, 30 years since then, huh, Ryan? I mean, we've gone from $5 trillion of debt and budget surpluses to now $2 trillion budget deficits per year for the next 10 years, $3 trillion per year in the years beyond. We're now closing in on $37 trillion of national debt. And you know what? Both political parties have been equal opportunity offenders. If you look at all that debt, about half of it came under Democratic presidential administrations, and the other half came under the Republicans. And so we're equal opportunity offenders here. And so the problem is, being able to pay for the interest to service all this debt is just not in the cards for our country. Like I said, we're picking up $2 trillion of debt every year for the next 10 years. Trump is about to extend his tax cuts, his signature tax legislation from his first term. He's about to extend that for another 8 years. We'll talk about the big, beautiful bill here, I'm sure, in a little bit. But that's going to add another $5 trillion, according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget and Maya McGinnis, who've really done a great job of crunching the numbers. It's going to add another $5 trillion to the debt. So by the time 2034 rolls around, you have $57 trillion from just our profligate spending, and then another $5 trillion from the extension of these Trump tax cuts, though they're not really paid for. So we're looking at $62 trillion of national debt. We are fast approaching a point in our country when we won't be able to afford to pay for that. In fact, former Comptroller General of the federal government, David Walker, who I admire and who I follow closely, has said that tax rates have to double to keep our country solvent. The Penn Wharton University just recently did a study where they basically said that if we don't right our fiscal ship of state soon, that no combination of raising taxes or reducing spending will arrest the financial collapse of our nation. In fact, they specifically says that when we hit about 200% debt to GDP, they think that'll happen between 2040 and 2043, that the debt starts to snowball. We don't have enough revenue coming in to be able to pay the interest on all that debt, plus pay all of our other bills, and you just can't get on top of it. And that's when financial catastrophe really happens. And so here's the interesting part of all this. We have Americans all across the country who are saving for retirement hand over fist in what we call tax-deferred retirement accounts, like 401ks and IRAs. So what are they effectively doing? They're basically saying, I want to get a deduction, and I want to get that deduction at today's historically low tax rates, only to push the payment of that tax at far into the future, at a point when most experts agree tax rates are likely to be dramatically higher than they are today. And so $42 trillion are locked up in these types of tax-deferred accounts. And so essentially what America has done and is continuing to do at a record pace is go into a business partnership with the IRS. And every year the IRS gets to vote on what percentage of their profits we get to keep, which is not a great business partnership to be in. So for example, you could have $1 million in your IRA, but unless you can accurately predict what tax rates are going to be in the year you take that money out, you don't really know how much money you have. And that's a pretty tough position to be in when you're trying to plan for retirement. So really, back in 2013, 2014, I sort of saw the handwriting on the wall here. I saw what the fiscal trajectory of the nation was. And so I wrote a book called The Power of Zero. I threw it out on Amazon and sort of crossed my fingers, and to my eternal surprise, people started to buy the book, and it was later picked up by Penguin Random House and is sold, around 400,000 copies. So I think it's a message that's really gaining traction. I think people, Americans aren't stupid. I think that they can see the handwriting on the wall as well. They can see that we are marching into a future where tax rates have to rise dramatically or we could go broke as a nation. And so really my mission has been to try to raise the warning cry to a generation, several generations of America who I believe are saving their retirement dollars in the wrong types of accounts. And if they've already saved those dollars in those types of tax deferred accounts, what can we do to reposition those dollars to tax-free so that by the time tax rates do inevitably rise, they've done all the heavy lifting and they can then take that money out 100% tax-free. If you'd like to develop a strategy that will help you wring the most efficiency out of your retirement savings, head over to davemcknight.com and click on the Connect with an Advisor button. I'm happy to refer you to a financial advisor in my Power Zero network that has been trained, vetted, and qualified personally by me. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section below. I'll do my very best to respond to them personally. And don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. This is David McKnight. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.